Disclaimer, not financial advice. We're not liable for any personal financial decisions. This is for entertainment purposes only. Thank you. What's up, guys? Welcome into another episode of Blockchain Brew Show. I'm your host today. Trent is your host today, and we have a special guest on the show today, Mr. W. And we're excited to introduce you to him, and we're going to go over some, crypto questions and history of the markets and see what we can, spin out of this. So welcome in, Wally. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me. How are y'all? How was Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was wonderful. Have you ever had marshmallow salad?
No, I have not.
It's
share the ingredients, please. What's the
sour cream, marshmallows, and fruit cocktail. The best. You question it, it's okay. It's the best though.
Yeah. I was throwing back some IPAs myself, This is the Blockchain Brew Show after all. I didn't bring one on to this interview because it is 11 a.m. Although that doesn't stop me some other times, but
I like it. I was throwing back some mezcal. I enjoy the smokiness of the flavor. I think it really adds a little texture to your drinks.
Yeah.
Nice. Have you ever heard of muff liquor?
No.
It's an Irish whiskey from Muff, Ireland, and Russell Crowe turned me on, and it's peat smoked. And man, you could really taste the peat coming through. And I was like, Russell Crowe's like, I wanted a good liquor that keeps you happy all night and laughing versus, you wanted to throw up and whatever. I'm like, hey, I want to try some of this out. So I actually bought it and imported it. And yeah, it's really good stuff though.
I'll give it a shot, Trent. I'll let you know what I think. That's awesome.
Well, let's start out, Wally, by having you introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about not just what you do, but a little bit about yourself as a person too.
Absolutely. I'll start with what I do and then go into myself as well.
Yeah.
I work for Bitwise Asset Management. We are a crypto asset manager. Prior to that, I was working in traditional investment banking with the Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, Dornberg Investment Management, some of the traditional TradFi firms that you hear. And I ended up falling in love with crypto after presenting Bitcoin to my CEO. He's a great guy. He just felt as if there was nothing there. And we unpacked it. And as I started to do more and more research, I realized that not only is there something here, but there's something worthwhile that could change the world. And so here I am now with the crypto asset management, crypto investment firm, helping financial professionals build the confidence to invest in crypto. I'll do my best not to talk shop. I come from Southwest Florida. For those of you who are familiar with Naples, a little beautiful beach town on the warm waters. Excellent place to go for some good stone crabs and of course, some good grouper sandwiches.
Hey.
Oh yeah, fire right there, man.
I like that. I like that hook line, helping financial professionals build the confidence. I think I missed the last part of it, but
to invest in crypto.
Invest in crypto. Okay, there you go. Hey.
I've been to Florida.
I do a well, my wife and I and our friends do a separate channel about Bible and theology and worship, and I'm going to teach through 150 chapters that deal with the end times in the Bible. And I think I just nailed down my tagline, and it's equipping you to help your community understand the biblical end time narrative. So,
that's good. No, that's good. I'm actually interested in hearing more about what you have to say to that. So I'll have to hop on to listen. I feel like that it's worth sharing. It's worth unpacking as well, kind of demystifying the story itself.
Yeah.
It's good.
Well, and you may not be able to speak into this, but crypto itself, I mean, never before in the history of the world has something like a global economy really been possible. And not just a global economy, but the ability to freeze payments, surveillance and all that.
You're spot on. If you go back to the history of money itself and just the recent history, the ability to weaponize money is somewhat scary. Regardless of where you fall on the spectrum of your political views or ideology, one person can make the decision. I don't like Trent, or I like Trent. I want to allow him to do this, do that, and I feel like that's a lot of power. So yeah, to your point, that's
I think Andrew Tate was talking about that crypto saved his life, because when he was in prison in Romania, whatever it is, they locked canceled banked him, whatever it is. They froze all his assets, but they couldn't get his crypto, so he still had money to live, which is actually a pretty cool concept to crypto. And I should have been in crypto back in 2013. It was literally like right up my alley, and and I was like, you know what, dude? I was like, I can see this is leading to the end times, and I want nothing to do with it. And then I was thinking about it one day. It was 2020, so it's been several years by, and I was like, you know what? God gave me a brain, and I might as well use it to help make money and help grow His kingdom in the meantime, because I can't stop revelations from coming. So I might as well, see what I can do in the meantime while I'm down here bringing souls to His kingdom. So that's kind of what got introduced me into getting into crypto. I think I mentioned to you before, I first bought Dogecoin in 2020 and had no idea what I was really doing, but I knew Elon Musk was getting into it pretty heavily. And I was originally going to buy Tesla when it was like $30 a stock or something like that. This is way back in like 2013. I was watching a video and educating myself, and I'm like, okay, they're coming out the new Cyber semi truck. I want to see how this is. If I believe electric cars was the future, but I wasn't super pro electric car, but I wanted to see how this truck was going to affect their stock. So I watched them do the trailer, and it did nothing but like maybe even go down. And I was like, okay, well, the world's not ready for that. And hindsight, I learned you buy when the world's not ready. I was like, oh, I missed what a golden opportunity that could have been. And so now I apply those skills to crypto by buying things when the people aren't ready for those cryptos. And then I try to help educate the foresight of why I'm buying what I'm buying, and this is what I'm doing. I originally believed, I think when we talked in January, that I didn't think all cryptos were going to make it. I thought regulation was going to come through and wipe out like 80% of them. All the money was going to move from these coins to these coins. And now Washington's administration come in, it's so pro crypto. I'm a little taken back, to be honest with you. Like seeing that Trump meme coin get launched, I was all like, oh, dude, I was all about it. I bought it at $3 and sold it at $50. But I made like a lot of money, but all my banks got decimated in the meantime. Like, well, what you gotta do, But now you're seeing how pro he is for like memes. It's very shocking to be like, I thought memes were gonna be dead in the hole. This was the last cycle for them, but now I don't think they're going anywhere. I think most crypto's not going anywhere.
Tyler, you're spot on. Just to piggyback off of what you're saying, I'll back up just a bit. I do agree. Investing and being intentional about your investments and tying it to your ideology and your belief system really makes a lot of sense. And I know oftentimes we invest just to invest, but I think that's a really good foundational piece. Meme coins aren't going away anytime soon. If you're following the SEC, recently launched 2 ETFs around Doge. So the market is just getting started, and like the technology is finally getting to a place where we are understanding its role, function, and utility. In addition to that, you're right. The regulatory space is definitely making it more inviting for innovation and for investors as well.
Yeah, maybe you can answer this, or maybe you can't. So I'm just going to lean into it because I don't really know how to ask it. But clearly, we've seen Bitwise have a launch with their XRP token coming out, their ETF. And XRP is not just the only one that does payment transactions. Like you got XLM, you got XRP, there's Hedera that work on that. I think even Crow's trying to step into that game too. There's a lot of ISO 222s that are trying to make moves, even Cardano. Now, what do you see like a lot of these transactional payments coming through? Like how do you see like how they're all going to work coherently, or you think there's going to be like one over the other, or?
That's a really good question. So for the short period, the short term, I see it still being a very competitive landscape. Like everything else, there's going to be a lead horse that is going to show that they're superior. Not necessarily it has to be technology related, but even the relationship component of it. I was recently in Cape Town, South Africa for Crypto Fest, and I'm not endorsing XRP by any means, but they were on the ground figuring out ways to do cross-border payments, within WhatsApp, within text messaging. They are finding ways to make this easier for everyone. Now, given we're here in the States, we're spoiled for choice. We've got Venmo, Cash App, all the platforms that we wanted to move money easily. But if you look at places like Zimbabwe or Argentina, Turkey, you'll realize that they need some of these rails that we're so used to. So
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a lead right now, but I will say XRP is doing all of the groundwork to lay the foundation, whether it's relationship building, finding solutions, having kids, young adults, and older expertise join the conversation to move the narrative.
I think ODL too that's a specialty to XRP, isn't it?
It is. Yes. I feel like your viewer base really has a good depth of knowledge because yes, you're speaking facts.
Yeah, ODL. I was watching some videos on how ODL actually works because I knew it was like on-demand liquidity, and you could transfer it one coin to another, but how it really syncs up it's absolutely an incredible picture that XRP really has built. You can transfer it from US dollars to pesos to cardano to quant and send it overseas, and 2 pennies would cost you, a penny, and it's instantly. I mean, the question, it's no doubt a superior in a way that none of the other cryptos have managed to achieve, in my mindset. Now, Bitcoin's pretty magnificent product in its own, but I think we all fall under where it's not designed, I feel like, to be used for transactions versus more of a store of your tokens, your basically your value.
Well, and I think that's what we, when we say superior, I think there's some qualifiers because I'm a Cardano guy. I don't necessarily believe XRP is this superior crypto. I'm also a big XRP guy too. I mean, XRP army. But like when we say superior, to me the qualifier for that is superior for what, right? And when we talk about interconnectedness with the global banking system and moving money from bank to bank, and I don't mean JP Morgan to US Bank or whatever, I really mean the IMF, like the system, the banking system that lies behind what's forward facing. And I think XRP is superior in terms of its ability to offer tools to an antiquated banking system, allowing them to move money. But if we talk about decentralization, or we talk about or we talk about privacy, or whatever it may be, then superiority suddenly becomes a sliding scale.
Absolutely, it's a little bit of a give and take right now. I do see us fine tuning to figure out what works best for me, for Tyler, for Trent, and so on. But the antiquated rails that we currently use, I feel like the time's up for that. And so I can see an XRP providing those same rails for the globe.
Yeah, going back to a little bit of a biblical thing, I actually, because of the way John and Isaiah and Jeremiah talk about the harlot Babylon system, chapter 17 and 18 of Revelation are really vivid in their description of this sort of thing. But, the harlot system has its tentacles wrapped around every facet of the economy, right? And I actually kind of see a world in which crypto helps the world become a place where poverty is almost eliminated for some time, and access to funds is not hard to do, even in the 2/3 world. And but I believe it'll be done mostly in a way where like good is called evil and evil is called good, and almost preparing the earth to worship the Antichrist. But
No, I now that you've mentioned all that, I feel a little bad because I've been in the Book of Psalms the past couple of months. I haven't veered back into Revelations in time. I was brushed up on my knowledge, of course, but I do agree with you. What do humans want? Food, shelter, security.
They want to live forever.
That too. And believe it or not, with the way technology is moving, I think we're gonna be able to live healthier lives for a longer period of time.
Yeah,
I see that well within reason, and that shouldn't be a challenge. Food, security, shelter, quality food at that. I find that when I'm overseas, I eat higher quality food than when I'm here stateside. And I think all that is just part of a system that doesn't necessarily benefit the people completely. And of course, that's just my personal opinion and not the company.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
we should dabble into the privacy sector because we were talking about this before, and seeing Zcash move, man. Like right now, I'm like, holy cow! Like everybody thought Zcash was dead, and then out of nowhere, it ripped. And I'm pretty sure someone just filed for a Zcash ETF, and I was like, who was that? I saw it on X, and we might have even shared it. Like, oh my gosh, I did not see that coming, especially for being in the privacy sector.
You texted it to me. It was Grayscale.
Grayscale.
They've got their ears to the floor. You know, I would say if Arthur Hayes says Zcash, you're going to see some traction in Zcash, and I feel like he does some really good research in that regard. I like the privacy sector. I'm not endorsing Zcash, but the last I read on, for example, Monero, were some of the challenges and the ability to remove some of the privacy. I believe Japan had a situation in which they were able to kind of back into who was doing what and so on. So Zcash really does stand out. We're going to see a lot of traction in privacy. At the end of the day, no one wants to have the level of, I don't want to say scrutiny, but just you want that privacy and you want that freedom. And part of what crypto brings to the market is a level of freedom. Now, crypto's tied to the idea that you're going to do nefarious goods, you're buying and selling kidneys online. But that's really fundamentally, that's just the person. That is a person, a character flaw or a character decision, making a decision in terms of how they're going to use their resources. But that's nothing is more laundered than the US dollar. So I don't
100%.
That's a really good example. I feel like if our government could lose our Department of, I don't know, War or whatever, Homeland Security.
Department of War.
Or Homeland Security could lose $3 billion plus. It shows you that there's a system there that's not really beneficial. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think in 9/11, when 9/11 happened, there was like a Pentagon came in and said they were missing like $20 trillion or $20 billion, and like 9/11 happened, no way off on the board, like and no one ever heard about it ever again.
So what do you think institutionally was, or maybe not, maybe it was retail, I doubt it, but what do you think was behind the privacy run, like in terms of the timing, like what caused it?
That's a really good question. I don't know if there are specific catalysts outside of the ideology, but I will say I had the chance to speak with someone who is within the FBI, and they saw the data, they saw the trends. Okay, Privacy Cash is getting a lot of activity, and so let's keep an eye on privacy. And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And you start to see the volume, the traction, the activity. So it made sense. And as AI continues to push into our narrative, we want the autonomy to stay anonymous, and then transact how we feel comfortable.
Nothing's really private on ChatGPT.
Right, that's what everyone needs to learn. There's these servers. Once you are inputting information, you're sharing it with the world.
Sam Altman.
Yeah, yeah, definitely sharing with Sam. And if it's a good idea, that it's no longer yours. That's my personal opinion, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I really enjoy seeing new projects still launch out there and start developing. I never got into layer two because like, why buy a layer two when layer ones are still coming out and they're still being competitive and faster, better tech, better chips, whatever you want to call it. And like, I was just looking at Zora, and I thought Zora is a really cool concept. And I don't know if Zora is going to be the one that actually ends up taking the cake or just being the pioneer. But I do like seeing new protocols come out, even like as a Beck protocol. That's another one that I've been seeing a lot of in the money sector, and it's pretty interesting seeing how fast crypto is developing. It literally feels like every year there's something new. I mean, SWE wasn't even a thought
Yes.
last year, and SWE's I held some SWE now. It's one of my bags because I think that it does bring have good tech. It has good backers behind it, and it's just seeing the development in the space, just like whoa,
Tyler, you're right. You say every year. I would go as far as say on a monthly basis, you're seeing the function and utility
Yeah.
start to really move exponentially. I like layer two projects. I feel like they bring a level of innovation that's very important. Not to take away from layer one in terms of what they do and how they do it, but I think it's still worth it to take a look. There's some standouts that I could speak to off the record, but I think that's worth some thought. Maybe offline we can chat about that some more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've got about, roughly 9-10 minutes left for the recording. I wanted to make sure we ask, what's your view on the changing cycle, from the traditional 4-year cycle to perhaps an extended cycle? I'll share a little bit, where I sit on it is that I think that we're seeing cycles within cycles, right? And I said this before we started the show. I think that if you look at the S&P 500 and you back up over 15 years, if your first experience with investing is in crypto, like mine was, like a lot of our audience is, then you think bear market and you're trained to look for a traditional crypto bear market. And if that's what you're looking for, show that to me on the S&P 500 chart. You can't. You can show me dip. You can show me corrections. Every chart has corrections. But, I think that we're headed that way. Obviously, Bitcoin is headed that way ahead of the entire altcoin sector. But, but I think we're going to see cycles within cycles. And so this could happen in a way where, I don't know, Q1, maybe early Q2, we see a big macro top followed by another correction. And the 4-year cycle guys will still say, well, it wasn't that far off. It didn't extend that much. 4-year cycle is still on. And then the extended guys will say, no, that was extended. And the argument, I think that the argument will live on for a little while because of the way that cycles will move within cycles, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And you're absolutely right. If your first experience in investing is in crypto, it's a bumpy ride. And it's hard to wrap your mind around some of the catalysts that create some of this activity that you see in the markets, which you sometimes see on TV isn't necessarily the full picture or the total breadth of the picture, especially when you have traditional Wall Street in the markets as well, playing a role in terms of volume, trades, and investments, and so on. I'll leave that at that. I personally believe the 4-year cycle is over. I feel like we can put that to bed. We're no longer looking at the 4-year cycle repeating itself. And you see a lot of investors who are on their way out saying, 2026 is going to be a down year, so I'm going to go ahead and pre-sell 2026. But there was a lot of other things that were happening in the market that they didn't take into context. October 10th, you had a washout. I feel like that's a very important component. $20 billion leaving any asset class is a big deal.
Yeah.
And for crypto, in the past, you would have seen pullbacks that would have been substantial. It would literally, but what you saw was, all right, $20 billion left in ecosystem. And yet, because of the belief in in crypto, here it is. It's showing that it's resilient. And what's going to catch a lot of people off guard, because right now the market's too high. You have a level of fear. I'm buying too high. It's too expensive. If it's too low, you also have a level of fear that it's going to bottom out. I feel like a lot of people are going to get caught in between that. And then it's just going to be, hey, the market is moving exponential and I am too late because now the market I'm priced out. And so if you're investing, I like to use dollar cost averaging, which is just I'm investing consistently, not large amounts of money, but I have some level of exposure. There'll be highs, there'll be lows, but overall, I feel like I believe in the narrative, and so I'm going to continue making investments in that direction. So there's just a lot of other macro. I do think if we continue to move forward, we're going to see, if we do see rate cuts, that's usually a big catalyst for market activity. Maybe some shifting of personnel within the government as well would be catalysts as well. So
we have the Clarity Act coming out maybe December, January, and it's interesting too because we're talking about traditional markets being in. It's like a wild west out here, and having the traditional market makers take a look at what's going on, and the fact that there's no regulation right now, and it's all being structured right now in Congress. This is the most optimal time to do this. And not just that, is that you have traditional, but you also have people, I could say it, people like CZ, who I actually like the guy, but I do believe that the October 10th was caused by him. And whether it was a glitch or it wasn't a glitch, seeing the fact that Ted, it didn't really unpeg, but unpegged in the system, caused that mass liquidation of all these, because everybody copy Binance because they're so huge, and have that happen and all these, trail down effects of being liquidity is showing that there are still games being played in the market, and there are still some tricks that people have up the sleeves. And I don't really necessarily think it's genuinely malicious. I think there is some money they're trying to gain, and they don't. I think more of it, they're trying to go after the competitors rather than their clients, because you don't necessarily want to hurt your clients, but you want to crush competitors. Kind of like I was cracked up about CZ going over to FTX. You're like, oh, let me look at your books. And he goes, yeah, no. Yeah, that's not I was cracked up, man. I was like, yeah, he did that on purpose. He was like, they really gonna allow you to do that? Okay.
You're right. You're spot on. If you go to the regulatory side of things, I was, in regardless of where you are politically, I was at a crypto conference, maybe it was Bitcoin conference in Nashville when I heard Trump speak. Regulatory framework is in play. You see first the Genius Act, the Clarity Act, and what you're seeing within Congress is they're voting for it. Of course, a lot of it is politicized in an effort to get reelected, but for the most part, you're seeing some guardrails so investors have the opportunity to invest where it makes sense, just like you would invest any 1940 Act fund or 33 Act fund as well.
Yeah, it's all super interesting. So what do you think about gold and silver? Not crypto, but gold and silver, how they're going up so incredibly fast. And not just that, is I've been telling everybody for a while, because I'm a gold and silver bug. And I'm like, dude, I don't think silver's done. I think we might get the little pullbacks, but I could see $150 in silver next year. I mean, I think that's totally realistic. And call me crazy. And I think gold could be at 12 grand here in next year or two. And I'm just, you're seeing like an unpeg. And even what Trent's point was earlier with the S&P 500 in the last 15 years, gold just plateaued. It's been doing this. It's now just playing catch up to where it needed to actually be.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We're going to continue to see some price action in gold and silver. When you notice a lot of sovereign nations are pouring a lot of their wealth, a lot of their security in gold, silver, and then you add that third component, crypto. There's fear. There's fear in the markets. There's fear around the world, whether it's macroeconomics, whether it's the instability of government regimes. You're going to see some more price activity. I believe you're going to see some more traction in gold and silver. I do feel like the older generation lean more towards gold and silver, where you have a more digital age. Hey, if things go sideways and I need to leave the country, I'm going to need a gold nugget to bribe the border agent. or exchange for goods. And so this is what, that's the narrative across the globe. But for the most part, though, I see gold going up. I see silver going up as well.
Yeah.
Precious metals having some traction given this market, and of course, crypto playing a significant role as we, as a country in the United States, try to figure out what the next steps are for this debt.
Yeah. Well, are we reaching about the time limit? Yeah. Brew Crew. We're grateful that Wally took the time to come on and share with us. And yeah, we've enjoyed this, had a great time. T-Square, you want to give any last words, sign off?
Sure. Yeah. Hey, thank you so much, Mr. W, for coming on here today. We really appreciate your time, and it's just exciting to be able to talk to you again and seeing how much the markets have changed, and even the world has changed in the last, almost 10 months now. Wow. I mean, it's really gone by quick, and just, it was funny cracking up. We were stuck at the airport, and then I reached out to you and you're stuck at the airport again. And I'm looking forward to having you back.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the conversation. I love what you guys do. I love at some point for us to continue the conversation.
Yeah.
My takeaways from the conversation: institutions, they've doubled down in the space. There's a lot of demand in the ETF world. If you look at Solana, 500 million within the first 3 weeks in these ETFs, another 100 million in XRP in one day. We're going to continue to see more ETFs pop up on the radar. Regulatory process has accelerated. We're seeing more real world applications as well. Conversation's not over. It's here to stay. So thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Brew Crew, out.